It looks like Solo versus Classic is mid-series, and it looks like that's going to be covered by Dave Testa. So Dave Testa has Solo versus Classic. I don't know where Steadfast is. I know Steadfast is somewhere in the ether. He's somewhere in the brackets. Meanwhile, we are joined by Chicken Man here in this ZvP. So again, we are trying to spread out as best we can, but we are also running out of matches. You know, we don't have too much ahead of us, especially with hero forfeiting. But here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Neo Humanity. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Z Gaming. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player representing Team Abydos. It is NightMare. Here we go. NightMare definitely looking good against Rebellion in that last series, and he has overcome players like Dark before. I want to say recently NightMare had a really surprising results. Can I fact check this? Can I double check? I can't remember if it was against Dark or if it was against Solar. Okay, head-to-head NightMare. Dark. I quickly check Wikipedia. So far, nothing too crazy. Hatchgas Pool here from Dark is going to be able to get into his standard opener without being interrupted or being able to, or he's not forced like the unnatural natural. As I quickly double check, it looks like no, it wasn't against Dark. What? I swear it was a Zerg player. Was it NightMare versus Solar? Let's run that query. Yes, there it is. I knew I saw it somewhere. And we casted it as well. It was the GSL qualifiers a couple of weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, during the GSL qualifiers. We did cast it on our channel. The VODs are available on Twitch. Soon they're going to be available on YouTube. But NightMare did take down Solar 2-1 in a very unexpected fashion. It was really nicely done by NightMare, just heavily reliant on these mid-game pushes, on mid-game aggression. Whether it's with Charged Archon, whether it's with Blink Stalkers. So, yeah, he has been getting some good results in recent times. But Dark is still a very different kind of Zerg player, a very different opponent. As opposed to Solar, Dark is far more aggressive. It's much more difficult to really catch him off guard, just because typically he's willing to cut workers and make army and not be as greedy. Oh boy, so yeah, we'll see how NightMare is able to handle a player of the likes of Dark. As the third base is being taken, third base is going to be taken here at the forward location. A very aggressive third base from Dark. With this, we can spread creep. With this, we have seen a rise in popularity. I say right, I mean, from the very beginning. From the beginning of the introduction of this map, we have seen a lot of Queen pushes, a lot of Roach Lins. You break through these rocks, and you lay siege upon the third base of the Protoss. Has become very commonplace on Neo Humanity, as NightMare goes for a Stargate opener into a Void Ray. Oh. Oh, no. Not like this, Papi. Not like this. So it is going to be a Void Ray first. Now, this could still be for an Oracle. This doesn't have to be Sky Toss. And, okay. You have my attention. So it's a Void Ray first. No Oracle. With a Twilight Council behind this. This is looking like Glaives. This is looking like Glaive Adepts. We have a proxy gateway being set up here on the left-hand side of the map as well. This is screaming Glaives to me. Here we go. 2 more gates are thrown down. 4 gates in total. We can get a 5th across the map. We can throw down a 6th across the map as well. A 2-base, 6-gate all-in is what I'm feeling. Not Glaives, though. It is 6 gates. It is a 2-base all-in. Charge instead, as we are pulling out of gas quite heavily. And did I say 6? We have a 7th, and we have an 8th. 2-base, 8-gate charge all in. What is this? A TVP? I've seen a lot of Terrans die to this. Against Zerg, this isn't too common. This is not a common build. This is not a common all in. Dark has no idea what's coming. Third base is being taken. We don't even have full 2-base saturation, by the way. I believe this is a fake. This is just to try to catch and try to feed Dark false information. Thankfully, Dark is making a couple of safety roaches, is playing things out safe overall, but 7 roaches isn't going to be enough. We're going to have a lot of these zealots here. We do see Dark trying to get some scouting information. He's going for, he's going to be checking here the linear third base, going to be checking the triangular third as well. Roaches are in production. Dark, he's going for his own push. Oh, this is going to get interesting. So, Dark is working through these rocks. He's cut workers at 42, which is a very early count to cut workers. He's making a lot of roaches as we speak. Here we go. The zealots are going to be diving on forward. They do get on top of the queens. The roaches are still not ready yet, but they are in production. We got a lot of roaches to commence kiting here, and it looks like Dark should be able to kite away and clean up these zealots, but they are closing the distance. They're getting on top of a lot of these roaches. There are only a handful left, but yeah, we are going to be able to force this back. Ooh. Again, it was so unfortunate that that NightMare ran into Dark also going for his own all-in. Like, now Dark is droning, now that he's recognized that his opponent was hyper-aggressive. So he's going to be saturating and resaturating this third base. More zealots are being morphed in. We have a Dark Shrine on the way because NightMare needs to do something to come back into this game. Even if the DTs themselves don't do too much, we can always morph into Archons. We can transition into Charger Archon. Zealots are going to be diving on top of these Ravagers. Very good pickups here for NightMare. He gets one. Can he get the second? Up, up, up. Oh, it looks like he barely will. 2 Ravagers. Very high value pickups for NightMare. And from here, NightMare's probing. He is transitioning. He's backing off. I would say that Dark is still in a better position right now just because of the Rich Vespine Gas Geyser, because of his droning. But it depends if he makes use of these roaches. Like, he invested a lot into this roach army. DTs are waddling on in. We do have a Spore in the natural, Spore in the main, Spore at the third. But despite the Spores, yeah, we have an Overseer on the way as well. Looks like Dark has recognized what's coming his way. Can he get the surround on the Spore? Spore will go down. Oof. But the Overseer finishes up just in time. The DTs aren't going to find any more damage. At the same time, Zealots are going to be diving on that hatchery. No, he goes for the Queen. A little bit indecisive there from NightMare. Does get a Queen at least. But the DTs get cleaned up and the Zealots are being forced back. Aye. So we can see NightMare just trying to find another way in, but because of the massive roach army, like, again, Dark, he's cutting drones really early on. Like, there's no 4th base. We're not even at 60 workers. Dark is looking to almost max with this roach army. And NightMare has no answer to that. He doesn't have Immortals, doesn't have Blink, no +1. Because of the all-in initially, like, the transition here from NightMare is just so awkward. And Dark may as well just move out. I'm sure he doesn't want to just because he doesn't have speed. Roach speed is still on the way. He's waiting for that moment. He's going to be giving NightMare an opportunity here to catch up in some of these upgrades. To increase the quality of his own army. Yeah, the Zealots, they just push on forward. The Roaches push on forward. The Zealots can't really do much of anything against this army. There are just so many Roaches. We have shield batteries. We have overcharge. It's not going to be enough. As we can see Dark coming in from the flank, getting a full surround on these Stalkers. Blink is done, but Blink is still not even done. As the overcharge is doing what it can, but Stalkers are still falling left and right. We can see Dark going to be focusing his attention here at the natural instead. He gets to the side of the core. No more Stalkers going to be morphed in. GG gets called, and Dark will take game number 1. GG. Very nicely done. Very nicely done here as we're going to be getting into our next game. Really awkward game, actually, because, again, as we just make sure we get everyone in here. It was a really awkward game as well, just because NightMare was going for his all-in, and Dark was as well. Like, again, he had no fourth base. He was cutting drones at 42, if you remember, just making mass roach. Both players were looking to be hyper-aggressive. But alas, the mass charge isn't quite what we needed in that moment. Now we're going to be getting into game number 2. The DT follow-up was also a shame as well, right? The DTs didn't do anything. They killed a Spore and a Queen, and maybe like 1 or 2 drones. Like, very negligible damage was dealt by the Dark Templar. And now, diving into our next game. Here we go, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Gaming. It is Dark. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Protoss representing Team Arbidos. And also representing all the weeaboos out there, it is NightMare. This time, Dark is going to be forced to take the natural base. NightMare going to be able to wreak a little bit of havoc here. Force the opener to be a little bit more awkward for Dark, but at this point, I'm sure Dark likes it. I'm sure he's used to it. It's all good. Smooch. As we are getting into this game, of course, on a larger map like Ancient Cistern, going for something like a 2-base all-in is going to be far more difficult, as, we cancel the... Do you end up canceling that second gas geyser? NightMare changing his mind a little bit at the last moment. But yeah, going for 2-base all-ins on this map is a lot more difficult just because of the size. In a way, it's more difficult just because it's a large map, so proxies can sometimes be made of great use. Like they can definitely work here, especially for a Protoss player, because a proxy gateway is all you need to reinforce. You don't have to really commit too much else to it. So in a certain sense, you can pull that off, but at the same time, like, it's typically ill-advised. On a larger map like this, you want to take advantage of some of the other features to get into the mid-game in a bit of a better position, but Dark really does thrive on Ancient Cistern. Time and time again, we've seen Dark just take map control and actually go for this mass ling style. Mass ling roach, if he's able to, if he has enough momentum, he's even willing to skip the roaches and go into a hive and go into ultras. Not just that, but for the past 2 weeks, it hasn't been too long, but for the past 2 weeks, Dark has been going for mutas more often than not. He's been going for a lot of muta play in ZvP, and it's been great to see just because mutas have become more of a rarity in this matchup, or in general. Outside of ZvZ, you don't get to see mutas too often. But the game isn't going to last that long, because that's not a Stargate opener. NightMare, he's going for a Twilight Council once again. Now in game 1, he did go for an 8-gate all-in, an 8-gate charge all-in. Actually, sorry, I'm going to have to correct myself. Last game, it was a Stargate opener into a Twilight Council. This is just a straight-up Twilight Council first. He almost threw down the rover. He throws it down here at the natural. This is looking like a DT opener. I'm feeling it. Oh, no, never mind. Okay, we're pulling out of gas. There we go. So, the tell here, if it is going to be Glaives, typically before Glaives even starts, is that you pull one worker out of gas on each of these geysers. It is going to be Glaives instead. This shouldn't be for a 6-gate all-in. This should be for 4 gateways. This should be more of a macro-oriented execution of this build, but we'll keep an eye on the gateway count. For the time being, 2 gates here at the natural, 2 gates in the main, 4 gates, nothing crazy. Again, you can still take a 3rd base. It is just going to be some pressure coming out from NightMare, unless he decides to throw down more gateways. But more gateways would mean that you pull back into gas, and that's not really what we're doing. As Dark is just vying for map control at the 4-minute mark, he throws down, or even before that actually, he threw down a very early Roach Warren. So Dark playing this out very safe. making sure he doesn't get caught out. I mean, especially after what happened in game 1, I don't blame him. Don't blame him at all. Oh, his roaches are already in production. The adepts are going to be moving out, but Dark has been able to see what he needs to, confirms that it wasn't a Stargate opener, and he will have an army ready here to meet up with these Glaive Adepts. Now, NightMare has to be very careful with these units. He cannot throw away these Adepts. He has to trade as efficiently as possible. He has to be as careful as possible here, not to overcommit, not to overextend, because if he loses these Adepts, he loses map control, he loses momentum, and he may just straight up lose the game. As we have pulled back into gas, and we delay our third base a little bit here for a faster Dark Shrine. Oh boy. DTs are going to be incorporated. Now, Dark already has some safety spore crawlers in every single one of his bases, so the DTs aren't going to catch him off guard. Dark isn't cutting corners. I wouldn't say DTs are common with Glaive Adept openers, but they're a really distinct possibility, and Dark is aware of that, making sure he doesn't get caught out. Laying Zuger for a massive counterattack there. The shield battery does get cancelled. The base itself is going to get surrounded and should be cancelled as well. Oh my god. Yeah, the Adepts just were not in position, and NightMare gets punished hard for it. This is the downside of not going for a Stargate opener. Without Oracles, your Adepts need to be back at home. Otherwise, what we just saw happens. Otherwise, your third base gets abused time and time again. The Adepts, they're on house arrest. They need to stick around. Lings, they're looking to dive back in. Again, if the Adepts moved out, Lings would find some damage, but no, the Adepts, they hold fast. They stay in position. And Dark has to back off. I'm gonna have to respect this here. Back at home, Dark saturating his bases, working on a lair. +1 melee is on the way, and we should be getting a 4th base momentarily. There we go. 4th is thrown down here for Dark. Everything is looking as it should, from at least the side of the Zerg player. Meanwhile, NightMare, even though he threw down a Dark Shrine, he actually hasn't morphed in any DTs. And I appreciate the restraint that is being shown here by NightMare. It's a piece of tech that he hasn't really made pay for itself yet, but there's no rush. As Ling's going to be catching some of these transferring workers, 3 probes do go down. Meanwhile, Prism across the map. I think we are waiting to warp in a wave of those DTs. A on the way for Colossus production. And yeah, no, we're actually still going to be holding off on the Dark Templar. Okay, interesting. Going to be double checking. I mean, there are spores in position anyway, and we know that. Dark Shrine has been scouted by the Overseer as well, so Dark can be that much more attentive when it comes to his detection. At the same time, the main army lays siege on the 4th, and it looks like the hatchery will go down. That's a big commitment, though. We get a hatchery for every single one of these Adepts. And Dark wants to chase down the Stalkers. Bold move, does force a recall. It's 1 Stalker just before the recall kicks in. And yeah, that wasn't a bad pickoff for NightMare. I mean, the Adepts, they need us to die anyway. Like, they don't scale too well, and we had to trade. Ideally, we trade the Adepts for drones, but hey, we got a 4th base. That's a good close second. Maybe even a first. So, overall, a good trade for NightMare. Does have to back off, and oh, he's actually going to be skipping the Colossi. He's going for Disruptors first. A bold move. It makes sense against Roaches, don't get me wrong. But Disruptors are always a scary thing to get involved with. Both as the defender and the aggressor. As Dark once again is going to be moving out. I believe he's going to be spotted. No, he doesn't get spotted by that prism. See a couple of spotted pylons being thrown down, and there we go. The army has been confirmed. NightMare's going to have to be careful, but it looks like he should be able to blink over to the other side of these rocks. Up! Oh. Moving down the cliff face. Meanwhile, Dark, he's done droning. He's been able to saturate his 4th and drone up to 77, which is a pretty good worker count. Off of this, you can max out on Link Main Roach Ravager. It's a very mid-game oriented army, but you can max out on it, and it can do quite well. Ideally, this is designed to catch the army in the center of the map, or just pull apart the army, harassing and hitting the 3rd base and the 4th at the same time. It's a very flexible, very mobile army from the Zerg player. Speaking of, that's a lot of Banelings. That is a lot of Banelings. Here we go. Banelings are rolling in on the right-hand side. Looks like Stalkers are going to be able to blink and keep up with them. The majority of these Banelings are going to be going down at the same time. We're not going to be stopping, by the way. Banelings roll in towards the 3rd base. Novas are going to be going off as well. Do they connect? Oh, they barely do. But the Banelings do connect regardless. There's just been so many of them. Massive Nova goes off on the Roaches, but we have more Roaches where that came from. We have so many reinforcements. It looks like Dark is breaking the 3rd. Shield batteries are going to be going down. No, the Disruptors, they're all trapped. Disruptors are going to go down as well. We barely do save 2 of them, but only 2. And NightMare is falling apart. All it took was one swift move out of Dark. But it wasn't just that, to be fair. It was also the lack of the Adept opener as well. It just didn't really do too much damage. We had the cancel in the 3rd. GG gets called. Dark takes the series 2-0. GG. Just basically in full control that game. Very impressive stuff there out of Dark. And a big reason for that is because of the Glaive Adept opener, it didn't do anything. It did 0 economic damage. It eventually led towards a cancel on the 4th, but that was also very delayed as well. Yeah, it did feel like just because of the openers that NightMare decided to go for, because they do set him behind tech-wise and they set him behind economically as well, they just weren't able to overcome that. Like typically, if you're going for Glaive Adepts, you do deal damage. You get some drone kills, you maybe get a queen. You're ideally getting value over time. But unfortunately, that is not what we got. And with that, GG well played. Congratulations to Dark as he takes the series 2-0 and advances on to the semifinals.